Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. Tonight, we are tapping into a space that we've talked about earlier this year with someone that we talked with earlier this year. And I think it's going to be a great conversation again. And I hope that you get something from it as well. It's really pertinent to where we are right now. As we get into this holiday season, there are tons of people who love this time of the season. There are so many things to look forward to, being around family and friends, being in different atmospheres, being at parties, all these get-togethers, the shopping, the hustle and bustle, all of that. They love every bit of it. But there are tons of people who feel the exact opposite about this very time of the year for various reasons. I mean, it could be, thinking about people that you've lost or, experiences that you've had around this time of the season. It could be a multitude of things. And so I think it's really important just to talk about the holiday blues, as it's kind of put, and just have a general conversation about what it looks like, all the many more things that are a part of it. And of course, I couldn't have this conversation without having Lamarr Lewis join us again, who is a therapist and consultant. Lamarr, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm well. I'm well. Day by day, brother. Day by day. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm excited that we get
Fantastic.
to chop it up again. So
Absolutely.
always
Absolutely.
happy about that. I think something that led me to look into this a little bit more is, being in the coaching space, and I would have clients who would dread these times of the year, and to peel back just some of the things that they were experiencing, it was eye-opening for me, like you said, because I never really thought about the other person
Mhm.
that doesn't really care for this time of the year. And I definitely didn't think about it to the magnitude of them having such massive trauma behind
Mhm.
it. So very, very important topic for me to discuss. And I definitely want for my viewers to, absorb this conversation and to look out for this, because sometimes you can kind of see it in people as we're going through our, yeah, I don't know, holiday season. You can kind of
Mhm.
interact with people and you
For
can kind
sure.
of see some of the things that maybe say to you, they may not really be into this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't think about it. So just right off the bat, um, you talked a little bit about, how this has become rapidly increasing and things of that nature. You as a therapist,
Mhm.
what types of iterations have you had with individuals who have had a really hard time with this holiday season?
Um, and to be fair, not much currently as far as in the therapeutic space. It so I want to answer your question directly. What I will say is that I am, due to my experiences, I'm becoming keenly aware of paying attention to people's, deviations in their behavior when they're not, or the simple way to say it, they're not acting like themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and putting things in context, I would say, knowing what people are some of their history, right? Um, for example, one of the places I do some work at, a client just passed away recently. So the fact that he's, passed away has intensified certain people's behaviors and dealing with grief and realizing that that can be compounded by the holidays, but also how that can be a reminder of their own personal experiences. So I think that even while I'm not um, directly dealing with it right now, that doesn't mean I won't, to be clear. But it does mean that I have to be keenly aware of that possibility and to be aware of those in my space, whether it be professionally or personally, who are experiencing who life, major life situations, whether that be the loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, loss of a job, uh, all these things and more are things the election, whatever side you're on, and then going into the holidays, knowing you're going to have to potentially debate your family who may see it differently, and
Mm.
all this kind of stuff, or just
Mhm.
keep talking about these things. And that's something people don't think about, like your family's like my family. When y'all get together, ain't no telling what y'all gonna argue about and talk about. And it might not be an argument as far as disrespectful, but just a debate of people on two opposite sides of a situation. But for some people, that activates a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of worry. Some people don't want to go and deal with that in debate, or they know you voted for this person, so they gonna come as soon as you step in the door. I heard you, and some people don't want to deal with that, or
Mhm.
things of that nature. And these are things that we sometimes just kind of deal with because it's our family. Uh, but it's still, for a lot of people, I've found as I've matured in life, that's still a stressor. And some people would rather avoid the stressor. I'm not even going to go, or I'm just going to, go in the early in the day and then leave, or I'm gonna drop off my food and leave, like whatever. Then that creates that isolation that people
Mhm.
experience, and or knowing that a lot of people are isolated, taken for granted. Some people would prefer just to even have a family to argue with. Some people, I think a lot about our elderly population, children who are in different situations or whatever. I remember one year, to kind of drive home the point. Um, the church I attended back home in Ohio, a lot of because some of the people who went there worked at the Job Corps, and so there were a lot of kids or young people who were home where that Job Corps, they didn't have anybody to go home to. And so, my mom ended up inviting a few people that she, knew who didn't have anywhere to go to Thanksgiving. And her and my grandma had a whole situation. But my point is that you don't think about stuff like that. Like, oh, these
Right.
people are actually away from their family, or, soldiers who are deployed, or just different situations that people, the people who or keep us safe, the people working, the police officers in the hospitals, and the people, firefighters and people like that who can't take off work because they, these different things that we, those of us who don't operate in those spaces don't think about, but it still impacts, us as a collective. So I think it's very critical, back to, your direct question as a therapist, just to be sensitive to that and remind people all time, times are hard, and times are good. It just depends on your vantage point.
Mhm.
But just to being more sensitive to the fact that the holidays could increase a person's frustration, worriness, isolation, all those type of things. Even if they don't necessarily celebrate, they're still, I know I got a friend of mine, he don't celebrate anything, but he still isolates. You know what I'm saying? So it's like making sure I check on him. I know you don't, do Thanksgiving, bro, but if you want to come by and get a plate, you're more than welcome. Like, things like that. So I'm
Mhm.
sure I didn't answer the question directly, but
No, you answered it for sure.
okay,
I'm as you were kind of saying that, in the confines of it just kind of being put into modern space, I couldn't help but to think about, does social media
mm,
have an impact on the holiday blues? Because even if you're isolated, like you said, you still got social media, so you see a lot of stuff as you're scrolling on your phone.
for sure,
Have you had any experiences, or maybe some type of I don't know, uh iterations as it relates to social media kind of affecting
for
um
sure, for
this holiday
sure.
blue phenomena?
And to be fair, I'm not on social media as actively as I used to be. My main source of social media is LinkedIn and YouTube. So, and I'm not engaging in anything but LinkedIn as far as, dissemination of information. To that point, I recall a lot of debates, really more so on Facebook. When I kind of got away from social media, Instagram was like the thing. So I know it's kind of made several, like to your point, iterations since then of what's popular now. However, on Facebook, there'll be a lot of debates, different religious debates. If I'm, Muslim and there were different people who were Hebrew Israelites, I remember who I was friends with, and then the people who were Christians, and then they're all debating about these different things. What's a holiday, what's not, and my friends who are Jehovah's Witness, they jump in the debate. Like it's a whole thing, and it's like, but to the point, what we know now about algorithms and things like that, if you engage in that stuff, you start seeing more of it. And so
Mm,
now, even like to your point, if you're isolated, you're still receiving an influx of information that can be harmful during this time. Um, Also, if you're isolated, depending on what you're isolated about, right? I think about grief, as you, I don't mind sharing this, my son passed away earlier this year. And so if I'm on social media and I'm looking at families with little babies, that might do something to me, right? Another, I don't have a relationship with my biological father. So if I see dads on, Facebook or Instagram, those type of things, I'm just using myself as an example, like those type of things could
hmm.
activate a person, right? And you're seeing it over and over and over and over. Um, and we don't take that into account sometimes. It makes you think about the 4th of July. And the first time I had heard about, because where I live at, people let off guns, during many holidays, day the 4th of
Yeah.
July,
Yeah.
and guns and firecrackers. And I saw a post just years ago where somebody said, be mindful of basically letting off these sounds for your veterans who have, been deployed.
Right.
And then I never thought about that until I saw that post. So sometimes it can be
Hmm.
good because it can be educational, make you aware of something. That can transition across other areas too. Hey, be mindful of the fact that while you sitting there posting blank, this can impact this person this way. And then, you don't necessarily have to. But I think, again, being sensitive to that and aware that other people aren't experiencing the holidays the same way. So, to your point about a person who's isolating, if all I see is family, that can reinforce that isolation and reinforce um, that lack of belonging and that lack and maybe not even feeling worthy of having these type of interactions with people. Some people maybe just went through a hard breakup or divorce and that all they want is companionship, and they a lot of times people getting proposed to and engaged and married around these holidays, like these are all things that we don't take into account that we're consuming that impact us at a level. I feel, and so to your point, I think it's necessary for us to just keep that in mind for ourselves, right? You can post whatever you want to post. I ain't telling you not to post what you post. If you're proud of your family, post them. But what I am saying, more so from a personal aspect, be mindful of maybe that's a good time to do a digital detox and just kind of step away from social media for a minute because it's going to be a bunch of these
Hmm.
things that may activate you, right? So you got to know yourself and know what you're aware of. Um, I know for many of us, social media is a default. We just go to it. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, However, if you know it's going, activate you, that might be time to do a digital detox and focus on something else or whatever. So like I said, it's not all bad. But I think the key is being a critical consumer of the content you intake during periods of your a life and really being aware of that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the social media aspect of it intensifies a lot of stuff. And I can
Absolutely.
imagine, that definitely being really hard around the holiday season when
For
you do
sure.
see all the posts that you just kind of mentioned.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a sixth sense. Like when
Hmm.
people, when I feel like people are bothered or they're troubled, I can hear it in their tone. I can pick it up
Hmm.
in the way that they're looking. It's automatic for me.
For sure.
But, I kind of came equipped with that sixth sense.
Hmm.
That's one of my
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
superhuman abilities. We both have it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everybody does.
That's a fact. That's a
They
fact.
they don't. So talk to us about, the individuals that may not have it,
Hmm.
equipping them with like the kind of red flags to
For
seeing
sure. For
how
sure.
that is possibly or potentially going on in that person's life.
for sure. In somebody else's life, I'm assuming you mean. Okay,
Yeah,
for make
yeah,
sure I'm clear.
yeah.
Um, yeah, man, and like I alluded to earlier, I mentioned it in a professional space, but even in your personal life, uh, I would say, and it sounds cliche when I'm about to say, but it's you know, pay attention, right? Um, if you're noticing people, if you interact with me all the time, there's a certain level baseline of behavior you're gonna see. Generally pretty laid back, pretty silly. Um, Probably gonna be talking, laughing, cracking jokes, things of that nature. If you interact with Lamarr, and unless situation dictates me being a little more serious, of course, the best. But generally speaking, you interact with me, this is kind of what you get. Now, if you interact with me and my mood is lower, I'm not as talkative, not as verbose, not as engaged. I'm distracted. You know, I seem sad. Then those are things you'll pick up on relatively quickly if you're around me enough. I'm using myself again as an example. So all of us have people in our life who we're around, or maybe the intensity or frequency of communication. I'll use me and you for an example. We communicate several times a week, via text message. Every now and then we can get on the phone, we chop it up. But most of the time, then when I'm in where you are physically, we'll link up and talk or whatever. Uh, and if all those things start to dissipate, right, they start
Hmm.
to lessen,
Yeah.
and you've attempted, right? Hey, big bro, what's going on, Mitchell? You all right? You cool? What's going on? Just checking on you. You don't get responses. Like, start paying attention to things like that. Um, or if you get very short responses, like there's certain behaviors that you can generally assume a person's going to do based on your relationship with them. If you're paying attention, you can assess, okay, this is typical. Like, I got another friend of mine who is very sporadic with communication. So I expect him to text me today and I won't hear from him for another 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
That's just who he is. He's always been that way the whole time of our relationship. Also, when he's going through something, I hear from him more frequently. That's
Ah,
also a pattern. So I
ah.
know that. So I know if I hear from him more frequently, something else is going on that he really wants to talk about or deal with. But his check-ins become more frequent. Otherwise, when he's cool, it could be years. Sometimes it's been 2 or 3 years. I just wouldn't hear from him. But that's him. He's like, when I say always been that way, always been that way. So you got to know, again, what you're looking at. And you don't have to necessarily be a clinician or anything, a psychologist or whatever to know that. You just got to really just pay attention. And that simply means like being present, being intentional with people, and being able to recognize, again, just changes in behavior. That if you can think nothing else, just remember changes in behavior. If Dr. Green is like this all the time, and he's not like that, then something is going on.
Hmm.
Like if you say, "Hey, man, I need to talk to you," I know something's going on because that's not usually how Dr. Green talk with me. I'm just using our relationship as an example. You know what I'm saying? If you say, "Hey, man, you got some time to talk today?" Okay, I know I got a clear time to talk because I know something
Right.
on he needs to talk. Because
Yeah.
usually it's the other way around. So I'm
Right.
saying that to say that lets me know quickly that I need. This isn't just a regular hey check in. This is now something's going on. I need to set aside time. That's why I always say, hey, how much time you need, so I
Right.
know what kind of conversation we about to have. And usually it always goes over, but the point is, knowing that
Hmm.
and knowing you well enough to know that helps me to show up for you in the way I need to. And that's the whole point of it, right? If I'm paying
Hmm.
attention, then I can show up for you in the appropriate way. If
Hmm.
I'm pushing it off or if I don't make it, if I'm not intentional about it, then in your time of need, I may not be there to show up for you. So that's why it's incumbent upon us to really pay attention, have our internal awareness, but also the awareness of others. And that's very much what empathy is, right? Is putting yourself in another person's shoes.
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
and that's, even though to your point, we don't all come with that or that in abundance. It is a skill that you can learn, um, in order to be better at it, be better showing up for people. So yeah, just paying attention, man, paying attention and
Paying
then,
attention.
moving from there once you pay attention.
That's really key. I like the
Mm.
example that you used on the flip side. If somebody generally is like a texter, and they'll text you back 2 or 3 months later, or call you 2 or 3 months later, and then they start to do it more frequently. I like that example because a lot of times people will look past that because they think,
Hmm.
oh, they must have time to talk, and so we can talk every day, blah, blah, blah. But if that's not a normal behavior, then that's a red flag. And
Absolutely.
some people don't even look at it that way. But I'm glad you brought
Absolutely.
that up.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Um,
no, I'm glad you highlighted that. I think that it's because it's what I've learned, and especially as a person who has experienced a close friend die by suicide, it's subtle things. It's not the big gestures. More often than not, don't get me wrong, people do have these big gestures, but more often than not, in my experience, the people who are really having difficult times, it's very subtle. When a person has, I'm thinking just professionally now, when a person yells out, I'm gonna kill myself or something like that, I have found, and I'm not saying this is across the board, so I want to make very, be very clear about what I'm saying. There's an attention aspect attached to it as well. It's like a cry for help. It's very
mm,
big. Like I need
mm,
help. I'm gonna say this because I know I'm gonna get some support in this moment.
mm,
And sometimes people don't even think that's what know that's what they're doing, but they may not necessarily have an intent to do anything. But them saying it puts everybody on high alert. Conversely, my point in bringing this up is that if I don't want it to be on high alert, I may still want the help, but I don't want the attention. It's
mm,
gonna be subtle. It's not gonna be, I'm gonna kill myself. It's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be
mm,
very, very subtle, and I'm just, thinking about my personal experiences and things like that, and professionally, you know, and when I think about my friend Rob who passed away, I think I talked about him last time. Like when I went back and kind of downloaded everything after, everything happening, you dealing with the grief and the pain and the hurt, you crying and all that kind of stuff. And I really started downloading everything. I started peeping it. Like, dang, I didn't even catch. Dang.
mm.
I also gave myself grace because I didn't know what I know now. But looking back, I can see these little breadcrumbs. And
Oh,
so I think it's important, and to be aware of it. And I want to, you mentioned the term red flags. Something that I heard somebody say a while ago is, it's usually a red flag after the fact. In the beginning, you don't see it as a red flag. You just,
right.
oh, this is just something that they do. But then you look back like, oh no, that was a red flag. That was a red flag. We don't see it as such. This is, whomever they are to us in our life. So it's important when we're speaking of awareness to be self-aware, you know, so that you're able to see as clearly as you can. So yeah, I just think that's very, like again, it's really subtle things. And it's not to say everybody who's dealing with holiday blues or seasonal affective disorder or different things like that, just being sad during the holidays is thinking of suicide. I want to make sure I'm clear on that as well. I'm simply saying that being very aware and in tune with others, especially those in your immediate circle, and just erring on the side of caution. And like people been saying lately, the strong ones are the ones you need to check on. The ones are
Hmm.
the ones who hold the weight of the family, or who, man, my man got kids and he's stressing trying to figure out how he gonna buy, the new whatever the new toy is now. I don't even know. Thankfully, my daughter's out of that stage. But whatever people, that burns people out, stresses people out. So
Yeah.
just being aware, being sensitive to it. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Um, and I'm glad that let me go back in a second. I appreciate you sharing the vulnerability of losing your friend in that capacity. I know that's a very tragic thing
for sure.
to have happened and to talk about so freely. So I want to just kind of bring you space and just applaud you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
For sure.
Um, that is very common though around this time for a lot of people
Absolutely.
who've lost individuals.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes, they get the double whammy of it happening around this time.
Absolutely.
So they
Yep.
have those triggering feelings. Talk to us a little bit about that part of this whole
Mm,
conversation, because
yeah.
that's a really big portion of this.
Yeah. 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 And as soon as you said it, made me think about a young lady. She was a client I was seeing, and her mom overdosed on Christmas Eve.
Mm,
Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve. Um, And they, she found her. Like, it was a whole thing. And, I think about that. And one of my other clients, his wife passed on Christmas, like last year or something like that. So I think about how, that impacts um, a person. Like, you don't look at Christmas the same anymore. You're not going to look at, and of course, some people say, time heals all wounds. Time ain't lessen the pain. I don't necessarily it heals all the wounds in my personal experience, but
Mm.
you deal with it maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is a real thing. People passing around holidays or on holidays, and even if they don't, being aware of the fact that that holiday tradition, and that's something I make sure I want to touch on too. That holiday tradition isn't going to be looked at the same,
Right.
right? And I'm gonna use a different holiday to make a parallel. Father's Day, right? For me. So this Father's Day is always difficult for me based on me and my biological father's non-existent really relationship. Um, that being said, I'm a father. So it's like this weird kind of like dynamic where I get to be celebrated for being the father that I didn't have growing up. I mean, purely my biological father. I have a stepfather who's done his thing. I ain't talking about him. I'm talking purely my biological father. I want to make sure because they'll probably
Mm.
watch this and I want, you know what I'm saying? I ain't slighting my man because he came in and did what he's supposed to do. I appreciate him.
Right.
Uh, so let me make sure I say that out loud. When he watch it, he'll be like, man, what you trying to say?
Right.
No, no, I apologize. What we about?
Right.
I'm just telling the story. I'm just making a
Right.
point. Uh, but that being said, like, but this year, like I said earlier, my son passed away. And so that's a third kind of element that made this Father's Day hard, you know,
Hmm.
because you have, a loss, like a physical loss, like a child who was here and who's no longer here, dealing with that. And it was still relatively fresh at that time. Then, like I said, the relationship with my biological father, which is a loss, but it's like a chronic loss, right? Like he's not there at all. And all the stuff that has happened based upon that situation, is a thing. But then you have literally the term bittersweet, right? The
Hmm.
sweet part of it is like I still have children who are in existence and they,
Right.
celebrate me and my spouse celebrate me and things of that nature, which is cool, right? Does that outweigh everything? Just depend on how I'm feeling at the time. That's also Father's Day is around my birthday, which most people are kind of contemplative around that time. So it's a lot of emotions happening, right?
Hmm.
And I say that because people will say Happy Father's Day and not thinking about, and it's not that they're trying to be mean or malicious or anything like that. Just they're not thinking about it. Like, oh yeah, a few months his son did pass away. Happy Father's Day. Like, is it happy?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, or Happy Father's Day. I know you don't really rock with your daddy, but you know what I mean? And I'm using myself again as an example because sometimes we do and say stuff and don't even think about how it impacts the other person
Right.
and just trying to be nice, right? So you might say Merry Christmas to somebody, and I'm guaranteed it's gonna happen this year. It's gonna happen, you're gonna do it, or Happy Thanksgiving or whatever, not taking into account, man, Thanksgiving time this person passed away from, whatever, how are they dealing with it? Oh man, his mama died on Christmas or New Christmas Eve. How's he dealing with it? Let me ask that question. Hey man, you good? I know this is gonna be difficult.
Hmm.
I'm assuming it's a difficult time for you. I just want you to know, man, I'm supporting you. I'm a whole space for you. If you need me, I'm here. But I'm thinking about you. And I tell people a lot. Sometimes people will say, I didn't know what to say to you. So I didn't say nothing. And I've told people and hope this has helped somebody. I said, just didn't say that. Say, I don't know what to say. I love you though. I don't need no more than that. Because what do you say to a person who's experiencing these various things? Uh, but because we feel the need to be right. Now, no, let me not say be right. Feel the need to have the answers. That's the word. That's
Right.
how I want to
Yes.
say it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we want to give an encouragement where we want to say
Right.
something impactful. We want to say something
Yes.
deeper. Sometimes it's just, hey man, I love you. Hey man, I got your back. Hey man, I'm proud of you for showing up today. I support you. I'm here for you. If that's all you got, that's all you got.
That's all you got.
So to the point, keeping in mind, man, that people are really struggling with certain things and they're really dealing with a lot more than we all know. Right? We never know what a person really is going through. However, if you do know certain experiences have happened, then I keep using the terms like being sensitive and aware. And I don't mean sensitive because, sensitive has different connotations culturally. So I'm gonna make sure I'm clear. I mean sensitive, just like the human part, right? Just being aware, like, yo, I don't want to intentionally or unintentionally hurt a person's feelings. How can I support this person through a difficult time? And or boom, this just hit me. Seeking support.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we feel like we got to carry it on our own. We got to, no. If I need, hey, bro, call me, man. Check on me. Shoot
Mm-hmm.
me a text. Let me know especially again, if you like me, and I'm sure you are, I know you are, when you the one who checks on people. You the one who sends the text out. Like there's 3 or 4 people in my life who like this year, outside of myself, had like really hard losses. And I make it a point. I try to do it at least once a week, just shoot them a text. It don't even be about that no more. Sometimes I just shoot them a text just to check on them. But it's intentional. It's a habit that I've built now. And that's a way for me to kind of work through my stuff by being able to say, hey, you good, cuz, you good, unc, whatever that I'm just checking on you. It lets them know somebody's thinking. Because it's not
Mm-hmm.
those moments when it happens. You got that initial grief that hits you hard and all of that. It's times like this when it's 5 years down the road, a few months down the road, whatever, and just something to your point about social media, you just see something and you just start like breaking down. You're like, where is this coming from? I thought I was
Right.
kind of dealing. Sometimes you just never know. And so when we talk about the holiday blues or holiday stress, you know, we're talking about the mental health effects. I want to throw the stress part in there real quick, if I may, simply because again, we alluded to it earlier. We're talking about grief and loss kind of in this space. There's also the stress of like trying to keep up during the holidays. Oh, I bought my kids, the GI Joe with the Kung Fu grip, what you get, that kind of thing. And that weighs on people. Like I said, the stress of being around for your family. Sometimes we assume everybody's family is functional. What if your family is the one that caused you pain? What if you were the quote unquote black sheep or the one who didn't belong? And so holidays have a whole different meaning for you. Or, now you've created a new family and your family or there's so many dynamics that play with people. Man, humans are so complex. And so I'm just saying that when you got the blues and you got the stress that comes from that sometimes, it's not just even grief and loss. That's one part of it, but another part of it is just how much the holidays, the traditions can mean to people,
Mm-hmm.
and how that plays a factor. I'll tell a funny story so I can bring some levity to the conversation. Tell a funny story. So when me and my wife were first dating, my friend actually one talking about who passed by suicide. He was dating her cousin. So it's around Christmas. It was Christmas several years ago. And I'm used to getting together for Christmas and celebrating Christmas. I don't remember singing Christmas carols too much. I'm sure we did. My family, we did different things. That ain't the point. Well, anyway, before the other stuff started happening, but we would always come together during these big holidays, my point.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to that. So I go to my wife's aunt's home. And if y'all can't tell, whoever watches this, I laugh at everything. And sometimes I laugh at inappropriate times, prefacing what I'm about to say, but don't judge me. But I feel like, back to my point, if you know me, you know this. So
Okay.
you surprise me, and I've offended people by laughing because I don't know, I can't hold it in. Like I try really hard. That's a whole other thing. So I'm sitting on one couch, my homeboy sitting on the other couch, and we eating, everything, everybody eating, having a good time. So her family member is coming out with this cake. Then it had birthday candles on. I'm like, it's somebody's birthday? I don't know. She says, everybody let's say happy birthday to Jesus. And I couldn't hold it. And it's not that it was funny, it wasn't as funny as it was then. I was cracking up then. Uh, Again, also because my homeboy knows I'm gonna laugh. He's looking at me like, so I'm rolling, right? I'm crying. And when I laugh, I cry. I get a big old vein in the middle. I get it from my mom. I'm crying.
Right.
And I guess I offended people. I told you I do that. I was much younger then. Wasn't as culturally humble and culturally aware.
Hmm.
But I'm saying that was a tradition that they did. I didn't know it. So I'm thinking like, this is crazy. And again, I'm talking about now, if this is a tradition you hold dear, and think about relationships. If I'm coming to be a part of your family and I'm not made aware or I'm not made to feel a part of your traditions, that can be distancing while even being in the space with people, right? And that's something that we don't think about. Like in the presence of these celebrations and being around loved ones, we still can have these feelings because, right, we have this version of the holidays that may not be real, or this version of how things will play out that may not really actually happen. So, so when you think about that, this is all part of it. I'm telling the silly story about me and B, and I guess you consider rude, but I I didn't I wasn't really a part of that
Yeah,
tradition.
I get it. Yeah.
You see what I mean? And this happens all the time. You're blending families and you're trying to bring people together, and you might have the best of intentions, but if it doesn't work out, are you internalizing that now? Are you personalizing that? Are you now no longer wanting to be a part of things? Like these are all things that happen during this holidays. One of my clients mentioned how like they have a tradition. Well, his wife has a tradition with her family, and it's not go. She's like the organizer. It's not going as planned, and he responded, I guess, in a way that she didn't feel supported. So then that causes an issue in their relationship because she doesn't feel like he is in tune with what she needs from him at that time based on this family tradition and her role in the family. All this stuff is happening all over the place. So,
Hmm.
these are things that I just want to kind of share some real life situations that maybe you can relate to, maybe you can't. But I think that it's important. The underlying theme is there's so many things so many ideals that we project on the holidays and ideals we project on the families that can make this time hard for people as well. Oh,
Hmm.
I expect this person in my family to do this or do that because they're this person. Oh,
Hmm.
this is my father, this is my mother. They're supposed, and they ain't always like that. And
Right.
or sometimes people feel guilt when somebody passes away because we didn't do these traditions or we didn't celebrate these holidays. So maybe a person thinking about relationships, for example, may be overzealous about certain things. Like we gotta have a tree, we gotta have this, we gotta have that. Why? Well, there's reasons, and it might be stem from something that happened. Maybe they never got it and they want to make sure they have all the stuff. It's so many
Hmm.
things, man, that really um we often don't think about that, like I said, that really impact other folks. So yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so many bits and pieces of that uh, I would love to just kind of dissect a little further.
Sure.
Um, like just that stress that you just kind of implemented. Like
Absolutely.
those are some stressful moments
Absolutely.
when you try to expect things from people, and there are things that people are used to and maybe they don't have it, and they know that they didn't do it, and it's just
Hmm.
a lot of layers of stress that can bring
Hmm.
that anxiety.
Absolutely. You remember another silly example. You remember that episode of Martin
Okay.
when Gina was sad because her family was in Philadelphia and they went to get on the bus, take the bus station.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's a silly example, right? If you've seen the
Right.
episode, you know what I'm talking about. However, what started that? She was again in a sad mood. She was missing her family, and that's something else we don't think about. as we grow and evolve and mature, some of us are blessed to still be around our family or have family near us that we can do these traditions with and still connect with. But what about those of us who, move away or we're not physically near our family
Hmm.
and we can't get there for whatever reason?
Hmm.
Uh, what about, that plays, that's also a loss, right? Like I
Hmm.
want to be able to go to,
Hmm.
wherever my people are from and be there with them. And even if they are acting crazy, drinking, smoking, wilding out or whatever, at least I'm with my family,
Right.
but I can't do that because I'm, in Tanzania or something like that. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
I'm somewhere, I'm somewhere else, halfway across the world. I can't
Right.
be with my family. So these are things again, um, like you said, and it adds a level of stress. And stress is so pervasive, and I believe in our society. And the thing with stress is that the things that stress us out now, shoot, 50, 60 years ago, even nobody would worry about. But they
Not
didn't
at all.
have all these different
Right.
things,
Right.
right? And so my point is your body doesn't know the difference.
Hmm.
Your body's going to react to this stress the same way it would if it was a car barreling down. It's going to react the same way internally. So the fear of getting in front of your family and, I voted this way and I know my family is this and I had to go into this environment and I got to prepare the heart beating fast, the queasy stomach, the racing
Hmm.
thoughts, like these
Hmm.
different physical manifestations of stress and anxiety and worry show up in this space where you're supposed to be uh feeling love and support and camaraderie and all that jazz. Now you don't have that. You don't approach the situation that way based on all this external stress. Many times it's really we just want to be connected. We want to um, feel love. And in that, we sometimes can create experiences and situations because we desire something so much. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I think that um, the more we do as a people, just that real intentional internal work to recognize these things, um, and that kind of seeps more into our collective consciousness, we'll be able to kind of redirect, right, some of that stress and kind of get back to what I believe these holidays are for, which is, family, whatever your family look like. It don't have to look like your family origin.
Right.
It can look like whatever you want your family to be, you know. And it's also not to say that you don't, you can choose to be by yourself or just with your family. You don't have to do nothing grand. Whatever works for you, as long as it's coming from my vantage point from a healthy space. And you are intentional about the decision you're making and you know why. Uh, and I think that, while giving increases and philanthropy increases and stuff like that. Again, there just are a lot of people um, who who are
Hmm.
really, really, really struggling with this time. And I think we don't think about how that stresses us out. And let me add this, speaking of stress, if you are one of the strong ones, you are one of the one, and everybody's strong in their own way. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. But I mean, the strong ones, like you, one of the ones people lean on all the time. You, the one, and you,
Hmm.
especially if you're the one of your family, setting boundaries is so vital. One of my good friends who since passed away, there's a lot of love in no. Just saying no, I can't do it. I can't make the mac and cheese this year, dog. I don't have it. I ain't got it. I can't, everybody can't come to my house this year. I ain't got it. Little things like that, or just being okay with that. But setting those boundaries is so important, man, to helping manage some of that holiday stress. Because when we don't set those boundaries, it just it adds to it. And I'm a
Hmm.
firm believer, the best way to get out of a hole is to stop digging. So,
Hmm. It
don't
does
add to it.
add so much more. It
Yeah,
adds so much more.
for sure.
Um, I appreciate you kind of digging into that a little bit more. Um, and I guess in that conversation, what you just shared, I didn't really
Mm,
think about how the traditions of what you expect to happen bring that stress amongst us because I know people feel entitled to, like you just said, they feel entitled to do certain things because it's expected. Like you expect to go over your aunt's house or your, uncle's house every year because that's what you are supposed to be doing. But what
Mm-hmm.
if aunt and uncle are not feeling that this year? They might, fall into the rails of doing something just to do it, but it is stressing them like out completely. I mean, the planning, the organizing, cleaning up the house, the cooking,
Yeah.
all of that can just kind of snowball into like
Mm-hmm.
a metamorphosis of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really, really good thing to highlight.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who does deal with this on a yearly basis.
For sure.
It can be around this time or it could be during another time in the year.
For
It
sure.
just always, it always gets to them.
Mm-hmm.
How do they prepare for it? Like, how do they work through it? How do they prepare for it? How do they
For sure.
proactively put their game face on
That's a
to
great question.
deal with this? Or is that even possible?
Um, so let me tease out some of the stuff you said, and hopefully this will answer your question. I would say first, don't put the game face on.
Mm.
Uh, don't put the game face on until that's how I say it.
Oh, love it.
I would first. I've been saying it the whole time. I'm gonna continue to reiterate. Have some self awareness.
Hmm.
At a point, you have to realize your patterns, kind of, and get some data. Really try. Okay, the last few Christmases, I've kind of really been in a funk. What happened? When did I start recognizing this? What happened that year? You know, I used
Yeah.
to like going to, my mama's house, but I don't want to go anymore. Why is that? Like really kind of going into that self inventory, right? Then once you have the data and you're aware of it, identify what things you need to boost your mood or to feel better. Maybe that's the time where you plan a trip. Let's go somewhere else. Let's create a new tradition, right? Um, Maybe it's when you reach out to people more. Hey, Doc, man, Christmas is hard for me. I know you got your family, you got your own thing, man. If you could just like check on me or just shoot me a text or call me if you got a few minutes, I'd appreciate it. Knowing that sometimes it might be I advocate for everyone to, have a therapist or a life coach or somebody you can get a third opinion from. Therapists and life coaches do different things, but sometimes you gotta get what you can get. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And if
Yes.
yeah, and if I can't get my therapist and get my life coach, I get my life coach, get my therapist, like whatever. But somebody you comfortable with, an objective third party, and go ahead and set those schedules up before that holiday may hit. Hey, Doc, I know holidays coming up. Or do you see people the week of Christmas? Yeah, I don't need you on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, maybe the 23rd, 22nd. Do you see people during that time? Like, if you know it's gonna be a hard time, reach out to your formal and informal supports already. Uh, and then, like I said, spending that time identifying. Let me go back. I'm sorry, identifying healthy healthier coping mechanisms. That might not be the time to sit in the house watching, you know, whatever you watch on TV, Real Housewives of Potomac or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's the time you want to go volunteer. You might want to go to a soup kitchen and serve. You might want to, just do something else that will help boost your mood during this time. A good thing is giving back to other people. Maybe there is a family member that you want to reach out to who can, or maybe you, like I said, take a trip or get on a FaceTime with somebody. Set up a Zoom call with your family. If you can't be there in the physical presence, let's set up a Zoom call so we all can at least see each other. That was the big thing, me and my family did during the pandemic. So, think about these things that can boost your mood and then set a plan, put a plan in place. You know,
Hmm.
Maybe that's not the time to sit alone and drink and smoke, that day. Maybe that's the day to be clear minded and sober.
Right.
Maybe that's the day, you spend some time in reflection. If you lost somebody, maybe that's the time you spend some time in healthy reflection about, the good things they gave you in your life and the positive impact they had. And while it's hard they're not here, journaling about it, writing it out, writing a letter to that person. Hey man, this is the fifth holiday, fifth Christmas you ain't been here. This is how my life has been. It's hard, but I mean, whatever. And then write it. Some people burn it, some people keep it. You never know, just to get it out of your mind is what I'm saying. But I think really, really that process of developing that self-awareness, getting the information, putting a plan in place, reaching out to your supports, uh, I did engaging in like healthier coping activities. I think all those things are things you can do
Hmm.
tangibly that can help
Tangible.
you,
Right.
with that.
Right. That's
Mm.
that's awesome. And I think that developing the self-awareness, getting to the root of it is so difficult because we don't really want to, a lot of times people don't want to think about the thing that's giving them the problem. They want to
Absolutely.
react to it, but they don't want to
Yep.
think about why they are reacting.
Absolutely.
I've had to kind of learn how to do that with myself. If I find myself just in a funk or something, I just say to myself, like, okay, what's really at the root of why
Yeah.
you are upset with this? But
Absolutely.
that took me some time to start doing.
Years
I just
for
wanted
sure.
to just be mad because I was mad. But as humans, it's our responsibility to do those self checks and to see
Absolutely.
what's really wrong with us. What's the issue at hand?
Hmm.
Getting that autonomy around what the issue is.
Yeah.
So no, I think those are great points, tangible things that I think anybody listening could really gravitate to.
Hmm.
You're doing something really amazing this year, and I want to definitely highlight what you're doing. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing this year and how it fits so well with this conversation.
Yeah, man. So first let me give me y'all, hope y'all don't hear my dog in the background acting a fool. She's
We hear no
oh
dogs. We hear
oh, that's good. That's good. She
nothing,
she
nothing.
well, she needs some attention so bad. But but that being said, man, what I'm doing December 8th at the Bout Boxing Studio, which is 2570 Lithonia Industrial Boulevard in Stonecrest, Georgia. I am putting together what I'm calling Knock Out the Holiday Blues. So what it will be, and then I'll explain where it came from after that. I am boxing is like my main source of physical activity currently. It's been like that for close to a year. Let me pause. I've been boxing my whole life, but actually, for what I've been using it for as of late, I was saying for the past year. And I'll explain that in a second. And I was realizing that all of the benefits I was receiving from boxing, not just physical, but the mental health benefits and even some of the emotional, psychological benefits, physiological benefits, uh, I felt that I wanted to give that to people. Um, and I also realized that if you've ever spent any time in a boxing gym, much like a barber shop, everybody's a philosopher. Everybody got some wisdom to give you, whether they're young or old or whatever. Uh, and boxing to me is such a great metaphor for life. And how no matter how old you are, there's always something else to learn. You have to regulate yourself. The worst thing to do is fight angry, right? And one of the first rules of boxing is protect yourself at all times. And these things are translatable across so many different, areas of life. So when kind of thinking on that, I wanted to provide an opportunity as not just a man who's engaging in an activity that he enjoys, but also as a mental health professional who recognizes all the stuff we talked about and more around this time. So I wanted to kind of fuse the two. So what it'll be is the physical element. I actually have professional boxers come in to like train whoever shows up, young, old, different fitness levels. It doesn't matter. I have like I said, I have a physical component, or therapeutic. We say somatic component, right? Where we're moving our bodies, and then we have the facilitated group discussions around what me and you just did. They won't be long, this is like a 2 hour thing. So, spend about 30, 45 minutes with the physical activity. Similarly with the facilitated discussions. And then, of course, break some bread, have some snacks and food and just that kind of thing. I have a young man who I would consider a mentee. Um, doing he's a motivational speaker, so I'm gonna have him come and do a motivational speech to everybody for everybody. And yeah, man, so that's what it is. Now I want to go back to explain why. Because there's certain things I can't explain through logic. I can only explain through faith and spirituality. So hopefully the people who listening can just ride me on this journey. Because some stuff I believe is divinely inspired. So I've said it a few times today, but I would be remiss if I didn't say it. My son Hunter passed away in February of this year. He was born premature, only lived 13 days. It was difficult for me and my family. We had his service a few weeks later, and so now we're in March. And admittedly, if anybody's ever experienced grief, which I think all of us have in our own ways, uh, I didn't really want to do nothing. I just kind of sitting around, and Dr. Sherman can attest. I'm an active guy. I like working out. I like moving around. When I'm in Mississippi and we visit, he's like, well, I know I got to talk to you after the gym because he was still me.
Yeah, that's
So I got to work out as soon as I finish what I'm doing, training or whatever. I work out. Now I'm ready to eat. Now we can sit down. We can talk. We can chop it up. I can get my food. Right? That's our process. I wasn't doing none of that.
mm,
So I felt it physically. Like I said, there's many benefits to working out and movement that I don't even need to name, but I wasn't getting none of them because I wouldn't do none of it. And so a friend of mine reached out to me and told me that another friend of ours, when I first moved to Atlanta, I worked at Valley's gym, and so a lot of us still stay in touch with each other. So one of the guys who used to be a trainer at the gym I used to work at was opening up a boxing gym not too far from where I live. So he was having a grand opening. I went to the grand opening, and he's training like professional fighters and stuff like that. So I, pulled him to the side. I said, "Hey, you train like regular people? Like, I don't necessarily want to fight any fights. I mean, I've done sparring and stuff like that. Like, I don't, but I'm at my stage in life. I'm not trying to do all that. I'm just trying to, stay in shape, hit the bags, hit the mitts, move around a little bit, keep things flowing." He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, man, come tomorrow." And from that day up until literally today, I've been there several times a week. I go sometimes open 6 days a week. Sometimes I'm there six. Like it has been very cathartic and therapeutic for me. So maybe a week and a half ago, because this all, I want to make sure everybody's clear. I usually plan stuff out. This is all, I'm gonna explain why. About a week and a half ago, I read an article um, on one of the boxing websites I frequently look at pretty much every day because I'm a boxing fan, and it was about boxing and grief. And obviously, it piqued my interest because that's kind of what happened to me. So I read the article, and it's these three different guys who were fighters, but they experienced losses in different ways. And it really resonated with me that how they kind of worked through their grief by being attached to boxing. I'm like, man, that's dope, man. That's really cool. Like, I guess I'm not, by myself in this kind of thing. So then it was a Thursday. It was 2 Thursdays ago. Now I'm thinking about it. I was leaving. I worked out, I was getting ready to leave the gym, and it hit me again. When I say divinely inspired, it wasn't me. It was like, yo, this is what I want you to do.
mm,
So that's why I want to explain it first and then go back to explain why I did it,
right.
why I'm doing it, and why, it's like that. So I was like, oh, for real? And then, so I told my coach, said, hey, I have an idea. I'm going to type it out and I'm going to bring it to you so we can talk about it. But I think it'll be cool. And the idea was what I've explained to you all. And I already knew who I was going to reach out to, who I was going to tell about it, who I was going to have support me in it. And, you know, if it was up to me, and I want to make sure I'm clear, I would, because I used to promote parties, I used to promote my music, stuff like that. I know you got to do it by a certain time. If you do it 3 months out, you can do that. Like I know all of that,
Yep.
and this didn't come to me in that way.
Right.
That's how I know
Hmm.
it was bigger than me, right? So I'm going to do my part, and that's why I'm grateful for opportunities like this because, like I said earlier, I don't have an active social media presence outside of LinkedIn, so that's usually how people promote stuff. But other people have been promoting it, reposting stuff, sharing it with their friends and family, and that means it's going to be organic, and the people who were there are supposed to be there.
Right.
And I've already talked about this with other people. I want to do one back home in the summertime about violence prevention. Like I'm realizing that this is an opportunity to grow something and to be, to your point earlier, a tradition. Hey, every holiday, you know, Lewis Family Consultant and Lamar Lewis is putting together this event at this gym for the holidays for people who are struggling with this. And it's only going to grow and get bigger because it ain't about me. Like I'm not doing this um, for likes or views. I'm not
Right.
doing this to be like this is I've been doing this my whole life, just putting together stuff and people come because they rock with me. They know what type of person I am. They know I care about people. They know I want to see people happy, healthy, and safe and do well. And I don't care what they look like, where they come from. I just want to help. And so this is my way of giving back. And also it's my way of honoring my son's legacy. And I think that's important, for me as a dad. You know what I'm saying? Because this is something I would have shared with him. So this is my way of sharing something that I'm looking, something that I love, and
Absolutely.
to be fair, man, without his passing, I probably wouldn't have even reconnected with boxing. I kind of just, whatever. But that's something I love to do. And I think the reason why I'm so dedicated to it is because, it's really helped me through this process. So I'm grateful that my ancestors and God have bestowed upon me such a heavy calling, but the opportunity to see it through, and they know they put it on me because they know I can do it, and they know I got people who love and care about me who want to support what I'm doing, so they know I'm not in it alone, and I know I'm not in it alone. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
that's the sum of it. It makes me kind of emotional because it's like I wish that more people, and I'm not saying people don't care. This is my perspective. I wish more people cared enough to do what they could do. Like, do I need 100,000 people there? No. If I got one person there and they benefit from it, no matter how much money I spent, how much time I spent, that's who it was for. And I could really care less that because that's what the call was to do. The call was to be obedient and to follow. Hey, this is what we need you to
Hmm.
do, bro.
Hmm.
And it's gonna help somebody. I don't know who it's gonna help. That ain't my job. My job is
Right.
to be there and provide the space and make sure it go how it's supposed to go, and people are safe and have a good time and learn something and get a chance to really go through this experience and provide um, to, like I said earlier, something healthy for them to do that will help them, manage some of this holiday stress. So
And I
yeah,
think it's a great just platform to really indoctrinate everything that we talked about tonight
sure.
and to have that divine intervention to do it. I
Mm,
know that it's going to carry out what you were called to do with it.
sure.
So very glad that you're able to do it and to share it,
Indeed.
share it to this space and this network. I hope that if you are in that area and you are, experiencing some of the things that we talked about tonight, you go and attend this really great cause. When you told me about it, I mean, I knew that you had to promote it here. So I'm
For
so
sure.
glad that you were able to do that. And I appreciate you coming on. Mr.
Yeah, man.
Lamar
Appreciate
Lewis, thank
you.
you so
Man,
very much again.
I appreciate you, bro.
Always
Bro.
appreciate it. Always
My
appreciate it.
man. My man. This has
Um,
been great. I'm glad for the opportunity. Thank you.
yeah, me too. Me too. Me too. What's something that you're grateful for today?
Man. Uh, Oh, I could say so many things, bro. But one thing I'm grateful for is divine God's protection from things that I don't see.
Hmm.
You know, many things when I see something coming, I'm pretty good at, slipping that.
Ducking,
But
dodging, yeah.
the stuff I don't see, the stuff that can knock you out, that's
Right.
what knockouts come. It's not the punches that you see come, it's the punches that you don't see come.
Hmm.
So I'm grateful that I've been divinely protected from so many things that I don't see.
Yeah.
And
That
I don't take that for granted.
that is indeed a blessing.
For sure.
I think today I'm grateful for challenges and difficult
Word.
people
Word.
because there's growth behind
That's the fact.
both of those things.
That's the fact. That's the fact.
And we all need to grow. So there's nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with that. So I'm
Yes, sir.
grateful for that. I'm grateful for that.
Indeed.
Well, for everybody that's listening, please make sure that you are going to my website, go to all my social media platforms, go to YouTube. You can watch this episode and many other episodes in the past, and make sure you subscribe as well. And come back again next week. We're going to have another amazing topic, another amazing guest. Hope you all have an amazing weekend. Have a great evening.